Hello, this video is designed to give you a better idea of how we envision the Engage software actually working. This is obviously by no means a promise on this is how it would exactly work, as it hasn't been built yet. Some things might change in the process, we might add some things might prove unworkable, but this video should give you a good idea of how we envision the technology working on the citizen level, the legislature level, the advocacy group level, in all the different areas we want to touch, and how that will help get people engaged. So first point is that we are going to try to look at every aspect of this. So it's not just the bills in the legislature, but it's also elections and referendums and engaging advocacy groups, say that 3 times fast, I guess, because quite frankly, those groups are quite important at the state level as they are at many different levels of government. The technology goes beyond just simple counting and fancy contact mechanisms that are little more than sending somebody, your congressman, an email that you see in some other apps that are currently available in this area. And we're looking for true engagement, direct legislature involvement, facilitating citizen involvement in bills and campaigns and in advocacy groups, an events model that actually syncs with your phone and lets you sign up for things through the app, and 21st century canvassing tools for the legislators, but also for citizens who want to be involved and may not know exactly how to get involved. And I think this last point here is very important. We will have a companion website that provides the ability for non-app users to still use Engage, because while everybody has a smartphone supposedly, the reality is not everybody does have a smartphone. And not only that, some people with smartphones don't want to use them in this way. And this app, this technology, needs to be for everyone. And so we need to have the ability for people to use it through the web, not just through their phones. The prime focus is on the phone. That's sort of what it's designed around. But we want people who don't use their phones to still be able to use the technology. So how does this work just signing up? If you're a citizen, you download the app, or you go to the website, and you sign up with either your cell phone number, which we would confirm by text through the app, or an email through the website. And that would, again, be confirmed by email. You set your login information, give us the address so we can set your legislative district, and then the most important thing is you customize your experience. I think there's an understandable tendency here to want to say, you know what, all this stuff is important, and we're going to give you information on all of it. And the reality is that will not work. You need to let people set their own parameters for their engagement. And maybe over time, they will find a wider variety of things that they're interested in, and they'll become more engaged in the process, and that would be great. And maybe over time they'll become less engaged and they'll get rid of some of the areas, and that's too bad, but you can't dictate to someone else their level of engagement in the process. You can just provide them the ability to do it. So we have notifications here that are extremely important for what issues the user is interested in. And it's a total opt-in process. You could not sign up for any issues, and obviously you wouldn't get much out of the app because you wouldn't get notified on very much, but it is possible. And of course, how you want to receive them, email or text, or if you want both, and if you want to be notified on events, or if you don't want it to sync with your phone for some reason, you could do that. Again, the key is letting the user decide their level of engagement in the process so that they stay involved in the process and don't get driven away. For the legislator, it's a little different because they're a different type of user, so we give them a code which identifies them as a legislator and their district. Once they set their login and cell phone information, and we will use two-factor authentication for legislators, they can create their bio, including a short video if they want, And then they have their own notification settings to set around what sort of information they receive when citizens are voting on bills in Engage, how they deal with messages from citizens from Engage, and how they want their events to work with Engage. And if they want, they can set up volunteering information. Anyone who's interested in volunteering can do it right through the app, and then the legislature decides where that message goes to. Totally optional, but I imagine many would take advantage. For advocacy groups, again, they have a code because they're a special kind of user, and it's very similar to legislators. Bio, video, they have very similar notification settings and volunteering information that they can put into the app. Before any bill actually even reaches the floor, there is what is commonly known as the stakeholder process, and Engage works in that part of it too. So a citizen will receive an alert, either via text or email, whatever they set up, that a bill is being constructed for the next legislative session. The alert could come because they indicated they were interested in that legislative category and wanted to receive alerts on stakeholder stuff. It could come from the legislator themselves if the citizen was one of their constituents said they wanted to get these alerts, or from an advocacy group. Again, as an opt-in, I wanted this alert. The alert has a link. They go into the app. The app gives the basics on the bill goals and information on how to participate in the creation process. That all comes from the legislator. The citizen can then sign up for updates on the bill if they want, or if, you know what, if they don't want to, they can just walk away and they won't get any more updates on this proto bill. Again, let people set their own terms for their participation. And through the app, if the legislator or advocacy group create them, they can participate in virtual meetings on the stakeholder creation process for the bill. For the legislator, obviously they're the initiator of this. They're creating the proto bill. Engage as a step-by-step process to put that into our system. And as we said, it allows them to send an alert to the constituents, but also to any relevant advocacy groups that they would like to bring in. They give the basics, the legislator does, on the goals of the bill, and they can set meetings for discussion using our calendar, and that'll allow it to sync up with people's phones. And then they can give updates. Anyone who's opted in to the proto process, the legislator can then send them updates on new meetings or changes to the bill. All of this helps ensure that when the bill actually is live, the legislators laid the groundwork with advocacy groups, which they already do, obviously, but also with the citizens, so that if they need help to get something over the hump, they've laid the groundwork with their constituents that they know this is coming and it's not just dropped on them. And they can use Engage to hold a virtual meeting with constituents, with advocacy groups, right in the app. For the advocacy groups, they can, again, receive alerts about specific categories, and they can send alerts to their own users, for lack of a better word, just engage people who have opted into this advocacy group. And they can use the app to hold virtual meetings. Now we have an actual bill that's going to come on the floor, and the citizen, if they've signed up in this interest category, gets an alert, either text or email, and it says, hey, there's a new bill. There's a link inside the alert. That link is the authentication for the citizen, and so it signs them in. It tells Engage who the person is. And they get to go to a bill page that is created by Engage. Title of the bill, a very brief description, and pros and cons written by Engage. And this is a nonpartisan process. So the pros and cons are going to be straight based on what the bill does. The Engage staff may disagree with the bill, may not like the bill, but they will write it up straight. The citizen can then vote right there if they want, or they have the option for more information and additional layers they can go into if they want to. There's ability for this to view a video if there is one from the bill sponsor. There will always be a more detailed explanation from Engage on how the bill works. If there are any committee hearings set, they'll be there. Any statements from legislators or advocacy groups will be there with the constituent's own legislator highlighted if there is one. And then, so there's the voting. Either before or after you look at all that information, you vote yes or no. You want them to, how they want to vote on this bill. Then, very critically, the citizen has to say why. The responses are created by Engage for the reasons why, but they can write in a response if they want. And they have the option to send a message to their legislator along with a vote through the app. And then they can decide, do they want to get updates on this, or do they just not care enough? Updates on committee assignments, hearing locations and times, votes, or critical moments. And we'll talk about critical moments in a second. Now they can see the voting data, and if they want, they can always go back and change it at any time if they change their mind on the bill. And if they do change their mind, they will still have to say why they're voting the way they are. For the legislator, the sponsor can create a video explaining what the goals of the bill are, what it does. Any non-sponsor can provide a short pro or con statement. The legislator can always view the bill's voting stats, and depending on their settings, they can automatically be sent a tally of the vote from the app. And then, so the comments, we said that a citizen can send a comment to the legislator. The legislator is going to choose how this gets received on their end. You know, it's an email, but they could also receive a text if they wanted. I imagine many will not do that, but it is possible. The message contains the link that lets the legislator reply through the app. So there's no email exchange here per se. It's all going through the app on both ends. After the vote, the legislator can leave a video or message, or both, to their constituents explaining why they voted the way they did. And they can use the app to send these critical moment alerts. So critical moment is, we need help on this bill, whether it's help in a committee, help on the floor, help getting it to the right committee, any of those sort of things. They only go to people who've opted in for the alerts for the bill, and they can only be for those kind of things where a citizen can make a difference. An alert will be character limited, so it will not be a crazy long text, but it can link to a longer message in the app. We are going to limit the ability for these alerts to get used. First of all, we want them to be used correctly. So you can't send a committee attendance hearing alert without an actual hearing being set. Other examples are on the screen here of similar kind of things where we're going to prevent the legislator from user error. Also, once an alert's been used, it can't be used again for the same bill for the same reason. You can use it if you have a new committee that you're going to, but you can't send 2 alerts for the same committee, for instance. And only the primary bill sponsor can send a request to send out an alert. So we're trying to limit the amount of stuff we're throwing at people. Obviously, we want people to be involved. We want citizens to kind of do what was done, honestly, in the whole healthcare debate this past year to really make a difference. But we don't want to overwhelm them with a deluge of messages. So the primary bill sponsor thinks that something needs help, they can send a request to other legislators in their chamber to send out an alert. Advocacy groups can do that same short pro or con statement for any bill. They can always look at the voting stats. And they can sign up for alerts just like a constituent could. And then, of course, they have their own alert group that they can send out to, but we're going to limit that as well to a predetermined number of alerts they can send out per week. Again, the goal being to keep the amount of information being thrown at people manageable so they don't throw up their hands and walk away. Then we have elections, right? Citizens can get all the information they need for primary and general about candidates and timing and polling hours and stuff. After the primary, general election candidates will have the ability to have limited profiles in the app so constituents can volunteer on any general election candidate's campaign if they have it set up. And they can see campaign events. Again, the candidate has to set this up, but if he does or she does, the constituent can see them and sign up. And again, if the legislator is using it, constituents can sign up for these one-on-one chat sessions. For the legislator, they can sort of harvest volunteers through this by having volunteer links inside the app, by publishing their campaign events through the app, publishing their town halls through the app. Once they're in a general election, candidate who's not yet a legislator can do all these same sort of things. Obviously, they can't do anything with the bill process or the stakeholder process because they're not a legislator. We're also giving them the ability to send questions to their constituents, again, on a very limited basis. If the constituents have opted in, again, it's all opt-in. And then, finally, the chat session. From the legislator's point of view, you're guaranteed this person will be in your district. You're guaranteed they'll be interested because they're obviously signing up for it. And you're guaranteed you can manage your own time. It's time limited, and you get to set the schedule for it. For advocacy groups, there's not much here, obviously, but they can endorse a candidate if they would like, and it can be done at the primary stage. Referendums are similar, obviously, but there is the signature season that we have before something can even get on the ballot. So during that signature season, Engage will have a brief description of what the referendum is supposed to do, and to the best we can, have the ability to have information on how to help if you want to help gather signatures. Some of that will depend on the groups sponsoring the referendums being helpful with us. Once the ballot's set, once something's on the ballot, then it's kind of like a bill. Constituents can view and vote on it. And these are the same sort of setup, the same two-step process where you say why, and the same sort of stats that we can see afterward. Legislator can see those stats, obviously. They can also endorse or oppose a referendum and post an explanation for why. Advocacy groups, same thing. Stats can oppose or endorse. The referendum sponsor group also has the ability to create a limited account, which gives them access to that voting information, including that second why part of it. Events are sort of part of all of this. Constituents can view any events that are in the system. If the event host has it set up, they can even sign up for the event through the app. They can sync their calendar up so it's all done automatically for them. And we're also going to have virtual town halls. If you think about the way a town hall works, the host, whether it's a legislator or a candidate, will get up and say something, and then people will line up and they'll ask questions. We can do that virtually. You don't all have to be in the same place to do that. You can use chat or a combination of video and chat. This is not supposed to be a safe space. We obviously want to prevent out-and-out trolling, but it's a town hall. People can show up and people can ask their questions. From the legislator's point of view on all of this, Engage will do our best to add town hall events we're aware of outside of the legislator actually putting them in, and then the legislator can claim their own event at any time. But a lot of it is driven by how much they want to use the system. We're going to give them the ability to have these events in RSVP through the app, the ability to have town halls through the app, but it's how much each individual legislature uses these tools. For advocacy groups, they can put their own events into the app as well, as can the referendum sponsors. So I hope that gives you a picture of how this system would work if we can build it. And hopefully, if you agree with our goals of bringing direct democracy into the 21st century, you can help us make it happen. Thank you.